Have you ever felt that you needed to distance yourself from someone, but something inside you stopped you, as if an invisible force embraced you, making every attempt to let go met with even more pain and resistance? If this has happened to you, know that this feeling is not just emotional, it is deeply psychological and, above all, part of your soul's journey. Carl Jung, one of the most prominent names in depth psychology, taught us that much of what we experience in life is not just the result of chance, but a reflection of our own unconscious. When we cling to someone who should have left, we are not just trapped with the person themselves, but with a part of ourselves we do not yet understand. This is where a fundamental concept of Jungian philosophy comes into play: projection. Jung stated that we project onto others what we have not yet recognized within ourselves. Archetypes, these primordial forces residing in the collective unconscious, shape our relationships almost imperceptibly. Have you noticed how some connections seem inexplicably intense, almost as if they were destined? This is because we often see in the other a reflection of what we lack or reject in ourselves. But why is it so difficult to let go? The answer lies in the shadow. Jung explained that everything we repress, our fears, traumas, hidden desires, ends up hiding in the shadow. When we find someone who resonates with this unintegrated part, we cling to them without realizing that we are actually trying to hold on to a piece of ourselves. This means that letting someone go is not just an external act, but an internal process. It means facing yourself, accepting what has been denied for years, and recognizing that the pain of farewell is often the pain of self-awareness. Now, think for a moment. What if this resistance to letting go is not a sign of weakness, but an invitation to transformation? Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." By avoiding this separation, you are repeating an unconscious pattern that has accompanied you your entire life. If all of this resonates with you, stay with me, because we are about to dive deeper into this journey. Understanding this process is just the first step. The real challenge is having the courage to act. How many times have you felt the need to change but been paralyzed by fear of the unknown? How many times have you postponed the decision to let go because you thought you weren't ready? What if I told you that this resistance is not yours, but your unconscious trying to keep you in the comfort zone? The great truth is that we only free ourselves when we consciously choose to face our shadows. That decision begins now. In the comments, I want you to write, "I choose to let go because real change begins the moment we commit to ourselves." By writing this, you are not only declaring your intention, but also taking the first step to reprogram your mind and break the patterns that imprison you. If this message resonates with you, if this conversation has awakened something within you, do not let this journey stop here. Enjoy this video, because the more engagement it receives, the more people trapped in this same cycle will find it. Subscribe to the channel, as here we discuss what truly matters: the journey, self-awareness, the awakening of the soul, and more. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Sometimes, all a person needs to begin transformation is a small push, a vision, a new perspective. Be that turning point in someone's life. Because liberation does not mean losing, it means making space for what truly matters. This shift begins now. Are you ready? Let's go together. Letting someone go hurts, because we often believe this person is part of who we are. How could losing the other mean losing an essential part of ourselves? But the truth is, this pain has roots far deeper than we think. Jung teaches us that what binds us to others is not love for them, but our own shadows projected onto them. This means we are often clinging not to the real person, but to what they represent within us. Emotional attachment is a trap of the unconscious, making us believe we need others to feel complete, secure, or validated. Why does this happen? Because deep down, there is something unresolved within us, something we project onto others to avoid looking inward. Jung called this projection a psychological mechanism where we attribute to others the characteristics, emotions, and conflicts that actually belong to us. This is where the real problem begins. When we cling to someone, we are not merely experiencing healthy, balanced love. We are desperately clinging to a part of ourselves we do not yet understand. Imagine for a moment that within you there is a void, an unintegrated part of your psyche. This void may have been created by past wounds, unresolved traumas, or unmet emotional needs. Instead of facing this void, we find someone who makes us feel whole. But this wholeness is an illusion. Jung said that everything that bothers us in others, or that we intensely admire, is actually a reflection of something existing within us. So, when we connect with someone intensely, almost obsessively, know that this person is not just another individual. They represent something far greater, a hidden aspect of our unconscious, a part of ourselves that has been repressed, and now, through the other, tries to emerge into consciousness. This is why letting someone go is so difficult. We are not just saying goodbye to a relationship. We are breaking a deep bond that connected us to an unrecognized part of ourselves. If this person awakened a sense of security in you, perhaps it reveals that deep down, you fear facing the world alone. If they made you feel loved, it might stem from a belief that you are unworthy of love on your own. If they filled a void, it may be because you have not yet learned to feel complete by yourself. The crucial point is this: until we become aware of these dynamics, we will continue repeating the same patterns. We will keep finding people who activate our shadows, reinforce our wounds, and trap us in cycles of attachment and suffering. Most of the time, we don't even realize it is happening. Have you ever left a relationship only to later find someone strikingly similar? Someone who reignited the same feelings, made you repeat the same mistakes? This is no coincidence. It is the unconscious in action, trying to resolve an internal conflict through external patterns. Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This means that until you understand what truly lies behind your attachment, you will keep encountering the same situations, the same types of people, the same emotional challenges. The question you must ask is not just, how do I let someone go? But, what does this person represent for me? Once you understand this, once you see the true meaning of your connection, the need for attachment begins to weaken. You start to realize that the pain of farewell does not come from the absence of the other, but from the fear of looking inward. Here is a powerful insight. The pain of letting go is not an end, but a new beginning. It is an opportunity to integrate what was once hidden, to become more whole, more authentic. When you consciously let someone go with understanding, you are not just releasing them, you are reclaiming a part of yourself. But I know, talking about it is much easier than living through this process. The fear of emptiness, loneliness, and uncertainty can be overwhelming. That's why I want you to do an exercise right now. In the comments, write, "I acknowledge what this person represents for me." Say this out loud. Feel the weight of these words. This is not just a comment. It is a commitment to yourself, a first step toward liberation. If this message resonates with you, if these words have stirred something deep within, then enjoy this video now. This is not just a symbolic gesture. It is a signal to your unconscious that you are ready for this transformation. Additionally, by liking this video, you help spread this message to more people who, like you, may be trapped in patterns they don't understand. Subscribe to the channel. Here, we discuss self-awareness, the journey, Carl Jung's teachings, and how they can transform your life. If you feel ready for this journey, join this community. And of course, share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this message. Sometimes, a simple click can be the turning point in someone's life. Take a deep breath. Feel this truth forming within you. What have you held onto that should have been released? What patterns have you repeated without realizing it? Write in the comments, "I choose to free myself from unconscious patterns." Say this to yourself, because this change begins now, and we are in this journey together. The fear of emptiness, the fear of loneliness, the fear of looking in the mirror and not recognizing who you are without that person. This is the real reason letting someone go feels unbearable. Because deep down, it is not just about the other person. It is about you, the parts of your psyche you don't want to face, the holes this relationship covered, the wounds that seemed less painful while you had someone to distract you. Carl Jung taught us that our mind is a master at deceiving us. We create narratives to justify our attachments, telling ourselves we stay in a relationship because we love deeply. because that person is our soulmate, because without them we wouldn't be the same. But what if all of this is just a mechanism of the unconscious to avoid facing your own shadow? The shadow, according to Jung, comprises all the parts of ourselves we have repressed and denied throughout life. Our fears, insecurities, traumas, and desires once deemed unacceptable. When we refuse to look at these parts, they manifest through the people we choose to love. Herein lies the problem. Most of the time, we are not genuinely relating to others. We are projecting onto them what we cannot see in ourselves. And when that person leaves, we feel we are losing a piece of our identity, but we aren't. What's truly happening is that we are being forced to look inward, and that's why it hurts so much. The void we feel is not the absence of the other. It is the absence of ourselves. It is the echo of parts of our soul we've ignored for so long, now demanding recognition. The pain of separation is actually an invitation to self-awareness. But our mind, in its desperate attempt to avoid this discomfort, creates resistance. It makes us believe we need to insist, try again, fix what was broken. It tells us that if we do something differently, maybe that person will return, and we can avoid this overwhelming emptiness. But the truth is, this void cannot be filled by any relationship, passion, or reconciliation. It can only be filled by what we find within ourselves. This leads us to an intriguing paradox. We often cling to those who hurt us the most. We stay in destructive relationships, nurturing hope in connections that have already been damaged. Why? Because this person represents something we have not yet accepted in ourselves. Jung explained that what we deny in ourselves, we project onto others. If you struggle with deep insecurity and feel unworthy of love, you might fall for someone who reinforces this belief. Someone who doesn't value you, ignores you, or makes you feel small. You stay not because they are right for you, but because your unconscious is trying to force you to see this wound. Or perhaps the opposite. You cling to someone who praises you, treats you as special, irreplaceable. When they leave, you feel you've lost all worth, because in reality, this relationship served as a mirror. You didn't see your own brilliance. You only saw its reflection in how that person treated you. When they leave, the brilliance seems to vanish, but it hasn't. It has always been within you. It was merely projected and now needs to be reclaimed. This is the true process of liberation. It is not about forgetting someone or letting time heal. It is about understanding what this relationship represented, what part of you was reflected in it, and integrating that part into yourself. This does not happen without pain, moments of profound loneliness, or the feeling that something inside you has been torn apart. In a way, it has. You created an identity based on this attachment and must now rebuild it without it. Ask yourself, who were you before needing this person to feel complete? What changed within you to make your worth depend on this connection? The key to your liberation lies here. The fear of emptiness feels unbearable because emptiness is where all the truths we avoid come to light, where our shadows become visible. But Jung said it is precisely in this void that we find our true selves. The big question is not about letting go of the other, but releasing the illusion that you need someone to be whole. It is accepting that everything you sought in this relationship already exists within you. It was only projected. This doesn't mean love isn't real or connections aren't important. It means that when we love out of need, we reinforce a cycle of dependency, one that prevents us from growing. So I want you to do an exercise now. Close your eyes and imagine this person leaving. Feel the pain, resistance, and fear. Instead of fighting it, ask yourself, what exactly hurts? What does this absence show me about myself? If you can answer this honestly, you've taken the first step toward freedom. Letting someone go doesn't mean losing them. It means finding yourself. I know this journey isn't easy. There are days when longing feels unbearable, when your mind convinces you you'll never move on. But remember, your mind has been programmed to resist change. It wants to keep you in the comfort zone, even if that zone is pain. You no longer need to live bound to these patterns. You can choose to look inward, face your shadow, and integrate what has always belonged to you. If this process resonated with you, if you felt these words touch something deep within, Leave a comment now. I choose to see beyond my projections. Say this aloud as you write. This is not just a comment. It is a commitment to your transformation. Like this video to reinforce this message to your unconscious and help others find this truth. Subscribe to the channel, as this journey is just beginning. Here we explore Jung, the unconscious archetypes, and the hidden forces shaping our lives. Share this video with someone who needs it. Sometimes, all a person needs to change their life is a new perspective. Breathe deeply. Feel this truth within you. You don't need to cling to feel whole. Everything you've sought has always been within you. Now is the time to reclaim it. What if the pain of letting go is actually liberation? What if this heaviness in your chest, this sense of loss, this overwhelming anguish is an invitation to something far greater? I know it's hard to see this now. Attachment blinds us, wraps us in a fog of emotions, and makes us believe letting go means losing something irreplaceable. But Carl Jung teaches us that the void is not the end. On the contrary, it is the beginning, the portal to individuation, the awakening of the true self. Individuation, according to Jung, is the process of becoming who we truly are by integrating all parts of our psyche, including those we reject, project onto others, or fear. This process never happens without pain. The pain of loss, separation, and saying goodbye to someone or something we believed was essential to our existence. But the greater truth is that what we feel is not just the pain of goodbye. It is the pain of transformation. Imagine a tree. For months, its leaves grew, bloomed, and were part of its structure. Then comes autumn. The leaves dry, change color, lose their vibrancy, and finally, the tree releases them, not because it wants to, but because it must. Holding on to what has served its purpose would hinder its growth. Perhaps the pain you feel is the wind of autumn, whispering it's time to let go. The space that now seems empty within you is fertile ground for something new, something greater, something aligned with your true essence. But fear comes with this idea. Emptiness terrifies. It puts us face to face with ourselves, without distractions or emotional crutches. We've spent so long filling this void with others' presence that we've forgotten how to exist without it. What if, instead of resisting emptiness, you embraced it? What if, instead of trying to numb the pain, you allowed yourself to feel it, explore it, understand it? Jung said everything we avoid confronting in our unconscious ends up controlling our lives. This means that as long as you flee from this void, it will manifest in new relationships following the same patterns, compulsive behaviors, or a constant sense of dissatisfaction. But when you choose to face this inner space, something magical happens. You realize it is not a dark, terrifying abyss. It is a door within you. The pain of letting go is not a punishment or proof you've lost something valuable. It is an invitation to look inward and find within yourself everything you sought in the other. True freedom isn't having someone by your side. It is knowing you are whole, complete, and enough regardless of who comes or goes. But this realization doesn't happen overnight. The ego resists, wanting to hold on, reverse the situation, or avoid pain at all costs. You must decide. Will you keep living in ego-bound cycles of attachment and suffering, or will you grow, evolve, and become your most authentic self? The path of individuation isn't for the weak. It requires courage to face what's been ignored, repressed, or projected. But it is also the path to true freedom. When you know, accept, and integrate all parts of yourself, you realize you never needed anything external to be complete. You always have been. You just didn't see it. Reflect. What is this experience trying to teach you? What does this void reveal about what you've avoided? The moment you answer these honestly, you take a giant leap toward liberation. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment. I choose to trust the process. Say this aloud as you write. This is a commitment to your evolution. Like this video to reinforce this message and help others find it. Subscribe as this journey continues here with discussions on Jung, the unconscious, and inner transformation. Share this video. Sometimes a new perspective is all someone needs to change their life. Breathe deeply. Feel this truth within you. What have you held on to that should have been released? Are you ready to trust the process? Write in the comments, I am ready to let go and grow. This change begins now, and we are in this together. True liberation doesn't happen overnight. Our mind, conditioned by years of unconscious patterns, doesn't accept change easily. The ego resists, fear paralyzes. Even knowing liberation is best, we fall back into old thoughts and desires. But the greatest reward of this journey is the peace that arises when we finally accept this truth. At first, it may feel strange, even empty. But given time, you'll realize this void is not a hole. It is an open space. A space where new experiences can unfold, where new versions of you can flourish, where your true identity can emerge without projections, masks, or the bonds of the past. This authenticity, born from the liberation process, is invaluable. For the first time, you begin to see yourself beyond labels, emotional dependencies, and patterns that once dictated your choices. You start to realize that much of what you thought was love was actually fear of being alone. That much of what you called a connection was an escape from yourself. That much of what you believed indispensable was merely a distraction to avoid confronting your own shadow. When this clarity arises, the connection to your true self becomes inevitable. You begin to understand that all the answers you sought in others have always resided within you. Everything that seemed lost was never truly absent. It was merely hidden beneath layers of fear, attachment, and resistance to change. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And that is precisely what happens when you let go. You awaken. You truly see yourself. You finally understand that everything you've sought has always been within you. But this transformation does not occur without resistance. Initially, the ego fights against this new reality. It tries to drag you back to old habits, old patterns. It wants you to believe that without this person, without this bond, without this chapter of your story, you are incomplete. But the truth is, you were never incomplete. You simply grew accustomed to looking outward instead of inward. This shift in perspective changes everything. Suddenly, you realize you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You no longer need to beg for attention, love, or validation from those unwilling to offer it genuinely. You no longer need to carry burdens that aren't yours, expectations that were never yours, emotional weights you agreed to bear only out of fear of losing something that was never truly yours. And then, for the first time, you feel what it means to be truly free. Free from the weight of the past. Free from invisible chains that kept you tethered to what no longer held meaning. Free to be who you truly are, without fear, guilt, or the need to mold yourself to fit into someone else's life. This is the ultimate transformation. The moment you realize that letting someone go does not mean losing, it means gaining. Gaining clarity, gaining emotional autonomy, gaining the freedom to choose your own path, unshackled by unconscious fears and destructive patterns. I know reaching this point hasn't been easy. Every word you've heard until now has touched sensitive spots, brought memories to light, and made you question things that once seemed unshakable. But this is the first step. This is the beginning of something greater. Because now, you have a choice. You can return to the same cycles, the same illusions, or you can decide, once and for all, to move forward. You can choose to trust that the best is yet to come. You can choose to no longer settle for less than you truly deserve. If this message resonates with you, if something within you stirred as you heard these words, leave a comment now. I choose to let go and trust the process. Say this aloud as you write. This is not just a comment, it is a commitment to your transformation. Like this video to reinforce this message to your unconscious and help others find this truth. Subscribe to the channel as this journey continues here with discussions on Jung, the unconscious, and the inner transformation that leads to true freedom. Share this video with someone who needs it. Sometimes, all a person needs to change their life is a new perspective. Take a deep breath. Feel this truth within you. What have you held on to that should have been released? Are you ready to trust the process? Write in the comments, I am ready to let go and grow. This change begins now, and we are in this together. True liberation is not about losing, it is about reuniting with yourself. At first, the mind resists. The heart aches, the ego screams. Everything seems to suggest that the absence of this person is a mistake, a void impossible to fill. But over time, something different begins to happen. You realize the pain does not last forever. You realize that what seemed like an irreparable wound slowly begins to heal. You realize there is life on the other side of loss. Not just life, but a life more authentic, lighter, and more connected to what truly matters. The greatest benefit of letting go is not just liberation from the other, but liberation from yourself. When we stop clinging to what has served its purpose, we create space for authenticity. We allow our true essence to rise to the surface. And this is the ultimate reward of the journey. Because, in the end, the greatest prison was never the relationship that ended or the person who walked away. The greatest prison has always been the illusion that we needed them to feel complete. The peace that comes when we finally accept this truth is indescribable. At first, it may feel strange, even empty. But if you give it time, you'll realize this emptiness is not a void. It is an open space. A space where new experiences can take root, where new versions of yourself can blossom, where your true identity can emerge without projections, masks, or the chains of the past. This authenticity, born from the liberation process, is priceless. For the first time, you begin to see yourself beyond labels, beyond emotional dependencies, beyond the patterns that once dictated your choices. You begin to understand that much of what you called love was actually fear. That much of what you thought was a profound connection was an escape from confronting your own shadows. That much of what you believed indispensable was merely a distraction. When this clarity dawns, the connection to your true self becomes inevitable. You realize all the answers you sought in others were always within you. Everything that seemed lost was never truly gone. It was merely buried under layers of fear, attachment, and resistance to change. This is the awakening Jung spoke of. This is the moment you stop dreaming and start seeing. This is the moment you reclaim your wholeness. But remember, this journey is not linear. There will be days when old patterns whisper to you when the ego tries to pull you back. On those days, return to this truth. Return to the commitment you made to yourself. Let go, not out of spite or resignation, but out of love, for yourself, for your growth, and for the life you are destined to live. You are ready. The time is now. Breathe deeply, trust the process, and step into the freedom you've always deserved.